Zeon can fight on 10 more years. Hello everyone, HoI4 here. I'll be playing the Gundam MOD for Hearts of Iron 4, 1 Year War. I'm kicking things off in the year 0075 of the Universal Century, starting with the Principality of Zeon, also known as the Republic of Zeon. I'm setting the difficulty to regular, and I'm doing this Iron Man mode. I've only tested this once before and it was pretty brief, so I'm almost going in blind. Please bear with me as I'm still trying to get the hang of the system, which might make for some messy gameplay. Right now, I've got a message from the MOD creators saying, "Thank you for playing, but really, I'm the one who should be extending gratitude here. Thank you so much to the creators. Historically, the Zeon forces are overwhelmed by the Federation's numbers and ultimately face defeat. But in strategy games like Giren's Greed, early blitzkrieg tactics seem to work out well, giving a different impression. This playthrough won't involve early declarations of war or blitzkrieg tactics. Therefore, instead of going down the supremacist human survival theory route led by the hardliner Degwin Sodo, I'll take a more moderate approach with Degwin Sodo Zabi, who follows a course aligned with Dakin's comrades. The third path, the revival of the Daikin House. A traditional centrist conservative route will not be selected this time. Leading the Zabi family, Degwin Sodo Zabi doesn't have the best domestic environment, lacking in paternal dignity. Inside the royal family, the assassinated Sasro was excellent as a civil servant, while Giren and Kycilia have bad characters. Dozle and Garma, on the other hand, are too good. In this game, to strive for independence, I first aim for the acknowledgement of autonomous governance through negotiations, taking a gradual approach towards autonomy. After securing this, I will embark on a national focus soaked with deep-seated hatred, aiming for the complete occupation of the Earth sphere. The supremacist human survival theory route really caters to the war hawks with its focus on aggression, which seems like a pretty sweet deal for people who love to take the offensive. If the Space Noids seek independence, it feels like the Earth Federation would declare war on them, making it a tough time for the Space Noids. The Earth Federation's objective to achieve annexation as a war goal is pretty harsh. Just like the original work, the Earth Federation is rotten to the core. Sadly, it looks like it's going to be difficult for the Space Noids and the Earth Noids to live in harmony without conflict. So I'm going to start with reconciliation with the Daikon faction. Regarding research, I'm not planning any early wars, So I'll focus on domestic policies and choose dispersed industry over concentrated industry to spread out our factories. Internal politics is a key aspect in most games. And since I won't be going to war for a while, it's best to prioritize the construction of civilian factories first. When it comes to production, I'll limit ourselves to defensive equipment for now. The Tega 70, our infantry rifle, Russell military trucks, civilian trains, and support equipment. I'll also manufacture the Sorolopo, 2 armored scout vehicles for support and reconnaissance purposes. Currently, there's no plan to produce mobile suits. As for resources, we're short on rubber by -12, which is a problem. Importing from the Earth Federation is less desirable since they are the enemy. Alright folks, so here's the deal. I finally figured out what resources I'm running low on, so it's time to tweak our production lines. This is all new to me, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around which weapon uses what resources, so expect a bit of trial and error. It's a bit rough around the edges, it's an amateur video, cut me some slack. I'm thinking we really don't need that Mongoose combat helicopter. It seems kinda surplus to requirements. Now, as for mobile suit equipment, it looks like I'll need that sooner rather than later. These may not be necessary in the immediate future. I'm thinking I should kick off production now to keep those sufficiency rate green. I'm talking Zaku shields, Heat Hawks, and Zaku machine guns. Oh, and speaking of Zaku shields, that shield mounted on the right shoulder. In the PS2 Zeonic Front game, it's pretty much invincible. It is so overpowered that it can literally absorb all enemy fire. With the mobile suits being paper, it all comes down to that shoulder shield. It's a tough game, but a blast to play. And let's not forget the commercials, absolutely insane. It had these Ganguro gals of the Black Trice, Dars doing the jet stream attack, all in homage to the original series. Alright, diving back into the game, we've got an issue. Our nation's kinda running low on rubber. So that means I'm gonna cut back on civilian factories and start building some synthetic refineries. Looking ahead to our upcoming Earth invasion campaigns, it looks like we're gonna be guzzling tons of fuel. And to conquer such a vast planet, we're definitely going to need huge armies, which means we need a beefy fuel production setup. Seriously, the Federation's resources are like monstrous. It's kinda crazy. I envy the fact that they can provide all their own resources without depending on other forces. In Hearts of Iron 4, we need to import resources by giving our civilian factories. In reality, raw materials must be imported to process products. In the game, Zeon's pretty much stuck with only Granada and Von Braun for resource imports. And if this go by the original story, Granada leans towards Zeon, but man, if they were completely isolated, that'd be a serious game over scenario. Alright team, it's time to make a big call here. I've got 4 potential commanders to choose from to lead our first army group, but you know what? I'm gonna go with Yuri Keller. This guy's a legend straight out of the 8th Mobile Suit Team, where he's a major general. There is a beautiful secretary named Cynthia, but only high-ranking commanders get secretaries in the Zeon army. She is so beautiful that he has taken her as his mistress. Now, moving on to who's gonna hold down the fatherland. We're not on the offensive just yet, so I'm looking for someone with those defensive commander. Someone who can buff our defenses. I'm leaning towards Nguyen Bitter. This battle-hardened commander resisted the Earth Federation forces, even after the 1-year war, and in 0083 Stardust Memory, he traded his life to launch the Jeep 02 into space. You'll see our spirit now! Those were his parting words. A man showing his mettle to the very end. This just goes to show Gundam's such a gem for giving these gritty middle-aged dudes their time to shine. Okay folks, let's strategize our defense setup. Seems like space is being treated the same way as oceans here, so we need to be prepped for any surprise landings from our adversaries. My game plan is to keep the ports. Gotta make sure that if the enemy does manage to touch down, they'll find resupplying tougher than they bargained for. In terms of foreign policy decisions and events, looks like our only move right now is supplying power to Granada. I'm on the fence about spending political power to warm up relations. It might not be worth the effort. On the domestic front, we've just smoothed things over with the Daikon faction. Good to have that in the bag. And I caught wind of some news suggesting that the federal government's hinting at keeping economic sanctions on the Republic of Zeon. It's definitely a plus to see the other sides and lunar cities not exactly marching to the beat of the Federation's drum. Sympathy from the entire Spacenoid community is a powerful help. So our next move in national focus? Time to play the voice of controlism and boost that Zeonism approval rating. For those needing a refresher on controlism, it's the ideology preaching that every Spacenoid can be economically and politically self-sufficient, entitled to rights and autonomy on par with the Earth federal government. That's the essence of independence we're pushing for. Alright, let's talk strategy on the political front, folks. I'm setting Degwin Sodo Zabi in the hot seat, harnessing his political clout to give us a much-needed boost. In these times, political power is just as valuable as firepower. Now, on to tech news, stirring up the pot. There's buzz about the potential military applications of mechanical arm technologies. Typical, isn't it? Humanity always has a knack for turning a tech that could benefit us in peace into something for the war effort. Let's look at Japan, for instance. They have this Foreign Exchange and Foreign Trade Act, also known as FEFTA, that keeps civilian tech that could have military uses from falling into the hands of countries or organizations that might be a security risk. It rolled out right after World War II, back in 1949. Initially, this reflected Japan's post-war economy, setting a principle of prohibition against foreign trade, but by 1980, it pivoted to a principle of freedom regulatory framework. Despite that, thanks to these laws, Japan can't stop the outflow of its dual-use technologies as easily. As of December 2023, there have been recent wars sparking export controls, but these restrictions are direct. They don't cover the tech passed through third countries or processed abroad. So what we're seeing here is that there are loopholes in the regulatory framework in Japan, folks. These gaps can be like hidden pathways in game levels, tricky to navigate, but they're there for those who know where to look. It's a complex game of cat and mouse, with the stakes being international security. Let's steer this convo back into our game strategy. We've got some options for our officer corps, and I'm thinking we draft in mechanic May Carwin. She increases army experience, plus she's a whiz at cutting down on the wear and tear of our human resources, and provides a supply outage countermeasure. And let's not kid ourselves. Supply management is the real deal. It's the lifeline of any force. Degwin Zabi just dropped a major line to every space node out there. Time to embrace independence. That's right, he's out here, advocating for self-reliance, sparking the flames of autonomy across the vast expanse of space. And in the meantime, the Earth Federation's tweaking trade agreements, all for industrial protection. Smells like colonialism, doesn't it? When it comes to our national policy, I wanted to align with the Daikun folks, but the Zionism support stats just aren't high enough to unlock that path yet. So let's play it smart and go for inter-side solidarity. Boosting that autonomy rate is the game plan now. Keep those eyes on the prize team. We're playing the long game here. An educational computer was presented, packed with light integrated circuits and equipped with the capability to learn on its own. It seems that there's some heat flaring up against the Zabi family's hold on power. People are shouting enough with the nepotism. Now back to our R&D strategy. We're keeping our focus on boosting production and industrial capabilities. But we've got an extra research slot, just begging to be used. We've got the option to cut down division training time with a shiny new battle simulator. But hold up. Let's not rush our decision without checking out the fleet lineup. Developing the Musei class. Not a bad idea. The ships in this game are seriously impressive, right? Take the Mont Blanc class missile destroyer. It's a Federation baby that's gone toe-to-toe with the Zegog. Next, then there's the Gog. Just one look and you know it's built like a tank. This thing could brush off mines with a "it's nothing, it's GOG" attitude. Now, onto the big guns. The battle stars themselves. The Guajin class has that sleek, intimidating design. It's weird that in origin, they're depicted as a slightly different ship class. But hey, that's the beauty of alternate takes. And those ship names, Guazin, Guaden, Guamel, Guaran, Guarib, Guashu, Guashu, Gua, has this ring to it, doesn't it? These ships are badges of honor, usually reserved for those tight with the Zabi family. But this is our game, our universe, where the glory of mass production is at our fingertips. Just like in Giron's greed, we can build a whole fleet of these beasts. Excellent news on the political power front, with a hefty 150 points racked up. It's time to appoint a new political advisor, bringing in Darcia Bakaro to boost stability, and the Zionism support rate is a savvy move, solidifying our base and ensuring our ideology resonates throughout the sectors. Now for the bulletin. The Principality of Zeon is pivoting from its dictatorship toward a more harmonious policy, coordinating with all sides. It's a monumental shift that could unify spatianoids under the banner of Zionism. Yet, in a classic power play, the Earth Federation beefs up its garrisons, infringing even further on autonomous rights. It's a ruthless strategy, aiming to keep the status quo shackled. We've got some critical decisions to make on our national focus. It's a tough call between investing in space colony construction on the left and appointing monarch of the moon on the right. Now, I've got my eyes set on that monarch of the moon focus, but I can't unlock it just yet without choosing the Comrade Daikun first. So, it looks like we're going with Munzo University to keep things ticking. We're loaded with 181 political power, so it's time to bring in a new political advisor. And I'm thinking let's recruit the top-notch Cecilia Irene. She's rose to fame as the navigator in Giran's Ambition and Yup. At 19, she has sexual relations with Giran Zabi. Oh, and there's been a new regulation on garrison troops. A max of 5 units, no ships allowed. While there's a hint of conflict brewing, we're still in a state of relative peace. Might as well enjoy the calm before the storm, right? Let's make the best out of this downtime and shape our space strategies. We just wrapped up our research on the combat simulator. Sweet progress there. What's next on the agenda? Let's develop the Musai class cruisers. Flip a Musai, class upside down, and tell me it doesn't give you those Enterprise vibes from Star Trek. The Musai class got this atmospheric re-entry capsule called the Komusai. It mounted upside down while docked, doing a full 180 flip after launch to get its bearings straight. It's time to pick our industrial company with careful consideration. Given our current Achilles heel of limited manpower, seems like the best bet would be to partner up with the Space Moving Company. Breakthrough news! We've succeeded in miniaturizing thermonuclear reactors. Energy issues? Phew! With Minovsky physics on our side. And here's a little piece of trivia that might blow some minds. The name Minovsky itself is actually a nod to Gundam's own Yoshiyuki Tomino. Yep, it started Tominovsky, like liking Tomino, which eventually evolved into Minovsky. He wanted drama, close combat, the human touch in the cold depths of space. So they came up with these particles that mess with radio communications. Just gotta say, Gundam really doesn't shy away from the messy side of love, does it? It spares no detail when it comes to relationships, with plenty of steamy scenes that certainly add, let's call it, a realistic complexity to the characters. Love in the Gundam installments can be a double-edged sword, you know, igniting passion but also driving people to the brink. Ha, can you believe the modders went through in an Alberta-class missile cruiser? Talk about deep cuts, guys. The ship's only ever mentioned in text form in the Gundam Strategy and Tactics Encyclopedia. That's some next level fan dedication right there. Speaking of the nitty gritty, looks like this game isn't too fussed about diving into the weeds with engine development and individual ship parts. Once the ship type is developed, each component is automatically developed as well. Now, what about developing some bazooka for our mobile suits? Let's not rush that. We've got this Sturmfaust, and man, that name just oozes cool, right? It's giving me some serious, trying too hard to be edgy vibes, but I love it. It's German for Stormfist, which just sounds so punchy. Alright, I've got one research slot left. What weapon should I develop next? Maybe I'll go with the Gwazine class space battleship. Originally, it was designed to enter and fly through the atmosphere, but in the anime, they scrapped that feature and instead attached a large space shuttle to the bow for communication with the ground. Unfortunately, they never actually used that shuttle in the show either. The Earth Federation government has demanded a crackdown on dissidents. Since I prioritize the space noids, I'm going to refuse this demand. It's a good event because it increases our war support. Besides, we're going to end up at war with the Earth Federation anyway. Honestly, the Earth Federation government is just too arrogant. Let's set our national focus next. As planned, I'll choose allies of Daikin. Degwin says, "We have a duty to maintain the balance of the world," which is a pretty reasonable statement. By the time of the anime, he's practically retired and takes a moderate political stance. But back in his prime, he was known for his strong arm tactics and was always at the forefront of political battles as a leading radical. Even so, you could say he used those aggressive methods not for personal gain, but to establish an equal relationship with the Earth Federation. Not that I can really praise him for it. As a leader, Gihren was far more capable, but his hardline stance and perfectionism made him believe that the one-year war could be ended quickly through peace negotiations. Because of this, he didn't have a foolproof plan for when things went wrong. Part of the issue was Degwin's secret contact with General Revel of the Earth Federation, and the fact that Revel broke his promise to Degwin. Considering these factors, it might have been inevitable. But you know, national leaders need to carefully analyze whether to start a war. If it looks like they can't win, they should choose not to start it. Of course, if they're attacked, they have no choice but to fight a defensive war. Surrendering immediately is not an option. One thing's for sure, carrying out a war based on willpower is a terrible idea. I really hate that kind of thinking. Alright, who should I choose as my theorist? Zeon's researchers have a high chance of defecting. Knowing the original story makes me want to delay choosing a theorist. Maybe I'll go with Lauren Nakamoto. But he also defects to the Earth Federation with Dr. Crust. There's this game on the Sega Saturn called The Blue Destiny. It's about Dr. Crust, who hates new types after he defects to the Federation. It's an original story for the game, but it was really well thought out and super interesting. Part of it was ported to the PS3's side stories, but the story was changed. Still, I thought it was pretty good. This game also features Oliver May. He had his mobile suit shot down during the one-year war, but was rescued and survived. Later in 0083, he was the one who delivered the Neue Ziel to Annabelle Gateau. Next to him is Carla Mitchum. Despite hating Zeon because her father was imprisoned by them, she worked as a technician for Zeon. Her father was executed by the end of the one-year war. She witnessed people dying right in front of her, which caused her to regress to a childlike state, though she eventually recovered. She had a tragic life. The Psycho Zaku she created managed to destroy the full-armored Gundam. The Earth Federation feared it as the Devil's experimental machine, while the Zeon forces praised it as a war god. I've been talking more about the original story than the game itself, haven't I? I get really passionate when it comes to my hobbies. Oh, there's a pop-up saying that Spacenoid supremacy is on the rise. I don't want to lower stability, so I'll choose concerned. Also, there's news that Degwin Sodo Zabi is returning as Prime Minister. He assassinated Daikin and purged his followers, but at the core, he's still a realist. Alright, it's been 30 minutes, so that's it for today. How was my first gameplay video in English? I thought it would be interesting to try making videos in multiple languages, so I gave it a shot. If you can, please leave your thoughts in the comments. No pressure, though. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel.